This is Jen from Scrap and Posh, and I'm here today with Artistic Studio Creation Design Team Project. I made this waterfall mini album out of my scraps, scrap chipboard and cardstock, pattern paper rather, and it was from the Graphic 45 Garden Goddess collection from ASC Supplies. I don't know if they have this one left, but I know they do have some several of the, I don't know, retired Graphic 45 collections. Now, this one is an 8.5 by 4.5, but my suggestion is, I'm going to go through how to make the pages with you, is to make it a 9 by 4.5 because I made my pages 8.5, and there is no room for error. If you do that, it butts right up against the top and bottom. So it did work out on this one. Luckily, I had everything in there straight, but yeah, so this is what the album looks like. The front is plain. I just used one of the cut-aparts. We have a magnetic closure, and we have 8 waterfalls. And honestly, I ran out of the cardstock that I was using, the color, so I started a rainbow. And on the back we have a pocket with a tag, and each page is also a pocket with a large tag to stick out, and it just repeats. That's what the album is. It is 8 pages all the same. We're using the hidden hinge system, which I'm not going to include a tutorial on, but I will link to a tutorial that I've done before. When you're doing the hinge, just remember to cut it at 8.5 inches because your pages are 8.5 inches. So that is the book. Let's do the tutorial again. My suggestion for the chipboard is 9 by 4.5. It has a 2-inch spine, like almost all of my albums. It just makes it easier. So again, I will link how to make the cover and spine. All you have to do is adjust the sizes. Now for the pages, we're going to start with, and remember you need this 8 times. I have an 8.5 by 4. I have a 3 3/4 by 9.5. So you want to make 8 of those. The 3 3/4 by 9.5, you score at a 1/2 inch on both of the long sides. Use my bone folder to get those folds creased good. And then you can either use wet glue, score tape. I'm just going to use my ATG, which for me has not failed. And this is your base page. So you want to make 8.5 of, or 8.5, you want to make 8 base pages to go on your 8 hinges. This one's going to be a little bit different because typically I have the tag to see on the front, but this time we're going to do it on the back. First thing I'm going to do is angle punch the sides. I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers angle punch. It's one of my favorite punches. I was just switching it up from the stub punch a little bit, which was also We Are Memory Keepers. I have had those punches for a very long time and they still work great. Now that I have my angle punches on, I'm going to flip this over because the pocket is actually going to be on the back. Now, For the waterfall, you need, each page needs 8 pieces cut to 4.5 by 4. And I'm using a rainbow again. Use up some of that cardstock that I have lots of colors of. And you score it at a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. So you're left with a 4 by 4 flap. So again, you score at a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. I also angle punch the bottom of these. Now what we're going to do is create our waterfall. And you want to leave it just a tad bit up from the bottom because we're going to put that closure there. You don't want the closure to hit the page. Now typically I stay away from closures in general, especially magnetic closures. I take that back. If I'm using a closure, it's usually a magnetic closure. But in this case, there's going to be 8 waterfalls in this, and if you don't use the closure, your book is going to get bound up. You're going to have problems closing it. So I took the first one, I lined it up with the left side and left myself a little bit of space at the bottom. This one I am going to line up with the top of this one, and before I firmly press it down all the way, I'm going to close it to make sure it's even. And you can see here I'm off a little bit, maybe even by an 1/8 inch. So that tells me that, one, I either have something cut crooked or I folded it crooked, which is probably the case. When you're using your scoreboard and you use the tool, sometimes your page slides a little bit. And what can be off here by a 32nd of an inch, once you get 4 inches down, it can be off by an 1/8 inch. So what I did was I just moved it, I lined it up with the side, and it's just like you can see here, like I said, it's just a tiny bit off here, but it's not going to affect anything. I'm happy with that. And then you continue to do this with all 8 of the waterfalls. If you can get everything cut perfectly and folded perfectly, then you can skip trying to line them up at the sides and just line them up at the top. I can't do that. I am not that good. Okay. Again, you line it up. Make sure that it doesn't overlap that bottom one or it won't open properly. Here we go. And there's 8 per. And I've never done a rainbow effect before, but I think it did come out quite nice. I do like it. And as long as you stick with a similar pattern or a similar color scheme to your pattern paper, it looks great. If you've seen the Garden Goddess one, I think it looks great. So another thing that you can do is you can make these waterfall pieces just a tad bit smaller so that they're I totally biffed that one, so that they're not lined up on the page perfectly. Like you have just a little bit of leadway, wiggle room on either side. So it's up to you. And if you're going to do this project, you probably should use like a 65-pound cardstock. I'm thinking anything thicker than that is going to be too thick for your 1/4 inch gusset, which is what you'll end up with if you follow the tutorial linked below for the hinges. Okay. I'm sure you're wondering what kind of crazy paper I'm going to use with these colors. I am going to use a extremely old, I think 2014 collection that and I'm using scraps, of course, but it is an album that I did, I think in 2015. Oh, this is a 2013 collection. It was a Cozumel, the place in Mexico. Bohemian Bazaar from Graphic 45. So it's a really fun collection, and it is super retired, but you kind of see the colors that you have there. It reminds me of like a festival, so that's why I'm using these crazy colors. All right, back to the construction. Now we are going to use some 2 1/4 by 8 1/2 strips. It doesn't have to be 2 1/4. It just happened to be what size I had left over from what I cut. So again, we're going to put adhesive on it. Oh, I'm sorry, I scored at a 1/2 inch on the 8 1/2 inch side. Okay. Got some overflow here. And you're going to line this up with the center of the bottom of our waterfall page. Okay, isn't that nice? Now, before we can put our closure on, I cut these from the leftovers. I'm going to pick one. We'll use this one. It's the same color as the second to the last page, or second to the last waterfall. I ran out of 2 1/4 inch strips that were 8 1/2 inches long, so I have these, and they're not 2 1/4, they're a little less than that. I could skip this part, but it won't be uniform throughout, so I'm going to cut this in half. This piece actually measures 7 1/4. I'll cut it at 3 3/4. I like this piece. I like the yellow polka dots. Okay. Line that one up with the bottom. And this is getting the most out of your scraps. You line this one up with the top. And you take one of the smaller pieces. I cut from a totally different piece of paper because that one wasn't long enough. And you connect the two. And they even have some cool stickers here left over from the collection that we can absolutely put on there to dress it up a little bit. Now, you may think that this is going to hide the magnet, but it's not. This is simply here to not call attention to this very square edge flap. And you can line it flush with the top here, but I'm not. I left a little bit. There's probably an 1/8 of an inch there. Now, you do need magnets, and ASC Supplies carries the basil magnets. And I can never get them out of the package. So they already have adhesive on them. Now, what you do is you take the adhesive covering off the sticker paper, and usually what happens is I peel off the sticker part too. Mine are a bit old though, so if that happens, no worries. I think Oh, it didn't happen to me. It usually happens. Okay. So, I took one off. Now, you don't want to have your magnet stick on the fold, obviously. Okay. So, I'm thinking probably right in the middle of this flap. I'm just going to put my magnet down and close this on it. Okay. Open it back up. Take the other side off. Oh, 2 for 2, okay. And close it on there again. Now you have your magnetic closure, but we have to cover those. We can't leave those sit like that. So I have my mats already cut out, and they are a little less than 4 by 4, and I'm going to go ahead and angle all 4 sides. As long as you use the same punch, you should be good. And just regular adhesive on that. I cut mine just a little too short, but that's okay. I just have a little bit more down there than I intended to. And then, although I ran out on 4 or 5 of these, I do have long enough strips for some of them, so we'll just use one of the long strips. I actually cut this not from scraps, but from an entire 8 by 8 piece of paper. And make sure that you're not too close to the fold. Alright, and there's the front. Let's go ahead and put a little scrap piece of paper here so that it doesn't look unfinished. So I would not pre-cut these. I would measure each one individually. This one you're going to want about a 1/2 inch. And the page is 4, correct? Yes. So going to measure a 1/2 inch. Double check to make sure I got that right. That looks okay. I kind of like that side better. And then we're going to cut it at 3 7/8. It's a little harder to angle punch these smaller pieces, but if you line it up against the one side and eyeball it to be where it would be even, you'll get a pretty good angle. Okay, we'll just line that up with one side. And there is our waterfall page. And then flip it over. Again, you have a room for a tag on the back. I cut my tags 4 inches by 8, and they fit very well in there. But let's put the pocket on. I have a 4 3/4 by 4, and I'll put the cut list down in the description so that you can cut them all at the same time. Four 3/4 by 4. On the 4 3/4 side, score at a 1/2 inch on both sides, then glue the bottom. Using glue instead of tape for the bottom will prevent your tags from sticking. Line it up with the side here and the bottom and stick down. Now my pocket is a little has a point on it, whereas I angle punched it, so I'm just going to put the entire page in there and angle punch the rest of that pocket off. No big deal. And then we're going to mat both the pocket. We're going to mat both the pocket and the top of the pocket. And angle punch just this side. So we're going to angle punch the bottom here and the top on this side. And this one sits flat. Right on top of the pocket. And this one will slide into the pocket. And line it up with the top. And there is your completed page. You take your scraps and make some tags to go into your pockets or some booklets. These I actually had left over from the first mini album I did. Oops. Maybe put some angle punches on your big tags. And decorate however you want. So I hope you enjoyed this abbreviated tutorial, what I usually do. If you do, please let me know. And let me know if there's anything that you can think of to add. And I will be inserting these into my already made base, just like normal. You simply peel the score tape off both sides and insert, without the tag in it, over the page. So, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any suggestions on how to move forward with my tutorials, anything that you'd like me to change, do you like the old way better where I started from the beginning and went all the way to the end, let me know. I appreciate all your thoughts and comments. Please like and subscribe. Head on over to ASC Supplies on Etsy to get your Graphic 45 collections and your essentials. She has everything. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and have a great day. Bye-bye.